Good morning, Brew Crew. I'm Eric, N1JUR, and I'm hanging out with my favorite co-host and a fun guest. Co-host, say hello. Remember how to do this? Nope, she muted herself. See?
Oh my gosh, sorry. Miles kept talking to me.
It's been a
I
while.
am Shannon, what is my call sign? KC1
Let's see.
OHT here in the United States, or 2 Echo Zero Oscar Hotel Tango in the UK, where Hogwarts is.
No kidding. And we're going to get into many more things and magic wands, but before we do that, Mike, how are you doing, sir? Good morning.
I'm doing good. Mike, N2MAK, WRQD 683.
I'm Eric, N1JUR 5678 6309, something like that. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, you hear for the usual. This is Brew and Activate. If you're watching live, good to see everybody in their chat, man. It's great to always see the usuals here. Roger, Ted's in there this morning. Shannon, as always, she's on the ball.
Bob is in my chat.
Yeah, wow. Hey, cool. Well, balancing out the crew there.
And
so
Bingo.
It's always great.
I got Bingo and Bob.
Bob and Bingo. Nice. It sounds like two dog names that I'd love to name my future dogs. So with that, maybe it's your first time here. Welcome. And you guys are now officially part of the Brew Crew. So with that, just for the usuals, we like to make sure that folks know what Brew and Activate's all about. It's about real world POTA. This is the wins, the slow days, the weird stuff, and the lessons we all only learn by doing. Because we go into that a lot. So whether you activate, you hunt, or you're just POTA curious, well, heck, you're in the right place for sure. So if this is your type of conversation, just do me a quick favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up for a like in the show. Hang out with us for a little bit. It's free and it helps all of our shows here. So I know Mike's not streaming to his channel, but you can always hit up Shannon and say hello and do that as well. So with that, we have a lot to kind of cover today. So hopefully you guys are ready to buckle in and learn a little bit about some POTA myths here. We figured we'd start a little light to get Shannon back into the groove here. But before we dive into our usual housekeeping stuff, we obviously have to address the usual here and ask the question, do you really know your spells?
Wingardium Leviosa.
So how was your trip to Florida?
Well, for those of you who don't know, my trip was extended by 4 extra nights due to the little weather system that we had that rolled through over last weekend that dumped about 18 inches of snow here in the Northeast. So we were supposed to come home on Sunday, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday. Oh, no. Yeah, we're supposed to come home this past Sunday. I don't even know what day it is. Let me tell you.
It's Friday. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the 30th.
So we were supposed to come home this Sunday. Our flight got canceled and rescheduled to Tuesday. Our flight then on Tuesday got canceled and rescheduled for Thursday. So we had to keep switching hotels. We were originally staying at Disney's Bay Lake Tower for like 5 nights. They couldn't accommodate us for an extra 2 nights unless we spent like another $900 per night. So I was like, we switched to Universal's Cabana Bay, which is a really cute little resort. If anybody's looking for some place to stay on Universal property, highly recommend it. So we stayed there for 2 nights, the Sunday night and Monday night, until our flight got canceled on Tuesday. So not only did our flight get canceled, but, my sister's boyfriend, who shall not be named, he didn't check his phone until we got to the airport. So we woke up at 3:00 in the morning to make our 5:30 a.m. flight. And he had gotten an email at 12:30 in the morning saying that our flight got canceled. So after we dropped off the rental car and got into the airport to the ticketing counter, he saw that the flight had been canceled. So then we had to add another 2 nights. So by then Disney could accommodate us because so many people had canceled their trips because they couldn't get to Florida. We couldn't get home. So we spent 2 nights at Disney's Old Key West resort, which is Disney's original vacation club resort.
Not sponsored.
It opened in 1991. It has the biggest rooms, and it's the only resort that has a sauna next to their feet.
All right. Well, with that, 2 questions. You said he shall not be named. Did you? I didn't know your sister was dating Voldemort.
See, you do know your Harry Potter stuff. You don't want to admit
Oh,
it.
dude, I told you offline. My son made me read the whole entire book series when he was 7 and 8 to him, in bed for every bedtime night story. So that, I know it well. I don't live it, I guess is what the best way to say it. So cool. All right. Well, with
And
that,
Miles wants me to show off his
Oh, boy.
Super Mario
Oh, dude.
popcorn bucket that lights up. Okay, one of the thrusters broke off in the airport. I have to re-glue that on.
boy.
But it opens up here in the back. This is where you put your popcorn. You wear it around your, you wear it around your body as you walk around the
Jeez.
park and snack on your popcorn, but it lights up. It's a Mario Kart. It's super cool.
Wow.
I find it funny that the place that the popcorn's stored is very tiny, but the whole entire thing is huge.
Tell me about it.
Imagine if they sold ham radios like that. It's like, hey, you get the big giant 705 case looking with the display, but then you only get one band. Oh no! Watch out! She's waving her wand, guys. It can only
Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, thank God we are not a Disney themed or niche channel here, although that might change in the future, I'm sure. But with that, Mike, what's going on with you, buddy?
Not much. Just trying to stay warm, man. It's like I got a huge list. Like there's a couple antennas like I want to build and mess around with and everything, but it's just like it's so damn cold. And like things just work differently or don't work at all when it's like this cold and stuff. And like I'm talking about things like it's like a pain in the ass sometimes with masts and other things. So I got a lot of projects I like to get to, but I just haven't.
Don't have
so
the will.
yeah, but yeah, no. Other than that, it's all good. I've been going out a lot for early shifts on Wednesdays.
Yeah, my ham alert goes off early for you, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, someone's got to be out at the park at dark 30. But my oldest son's in driver's ed, and he's got a class that starts at 6 a.m. on Wednesdays. So I have to get him to the school at 6, and it's kind of like one of those things. When we first found out, it was during the winter break, and I was like, really? Like then what am I going to do? Go back and go to bed for an hour and get back up again, or what am I going to do? And I was just like, you know what? Like I'm already going to be out in a freaking car. Like just go to the park, and I have a couple parks within 10 minutes of my office. So I just was like, you know what? I'll go play in the morning, and it's kind of been fun and interesting. And I think it'll get interesting. I don't know how long his class goes, but as we get closer to the spring, because right now it's dark, like still at 6:30, and not all the bands are open. So I've been doing a lot of 30-meter FT8 for now, but I'm sure, because I'm always looking at the muff map when I go out now, something I didn't do before, but I'm sure that I'll start to see higher bands opening up earlier and earlier and stuff. So it's going to be a neat way to, learn a little bit about propagation and stuff.
Okay.
But it's been fun.
Huh. Yeah. So I assume he's probably just in the classroom portion of it, so he doesn't need the dad's car to be able to go out and do. Actually, I'm sure that is he doing like an auto school kind of thing? Is that what?
Yeah, it's at the school. It's just the classroom sessions at 6 a.m. He's got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He's got the road class after. So Wednesdays are a long day. Like I'm dropping him off at 6, and then I pick him up at 6. So like Wednesday nights, and I think we were talking about Wednesdays backstage, and thankfully my other son doesn't have sports, because Wednesdays is like a long day. It's like a 12-hour day for my oldest son and I, and we get home and it's just like, I'm done.
Give me a beer.
We're over the hump, but I'm done. But it's been fun. A fun way to squeeze in my POTA. So
yeah, dude, that's smart. Like I do remember those times, those early mornings driving to, dropping my kids off to do that whole thing. And yeah, I really wish I had POTA back then. That was 6 years ago. So probably 7. No, yeah, 6 years
Yeah.
ago. So would have been fun. I slept in the car a lot, and I think that's probably why I have bad back. But anyway.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, let's kind of get into a little quick housekeeping here, as always, before we kind of dive into the topic today. Like I said, the topic today is kind of a little light just because Shannon's coming back in, and, you know, it's one of those weeks for me in the schedule. So, you know, I reached into my reserves there to kind of pull it up here. So hopefully it's entertaining for you guys, and, you know, we dispel a few interesting myths here. But just as always, you know, just want to kind of let you guys know real quickly, you know, if you, you know, have any desire or, you know, maybe you just can't catch this on every Friday live, that we have a 100%, you know, podcast there. So you can check us out on all your podcast feeds. So just search for Brew and Activate. And our link is in the description too as well if you want to grab it there. So if you missed this show or you want to go back to any of the back catalog, all that stuff is there, and we keep adding to it, so you'll never miss another Brew and Activate show. And then, as always, we'd love to let you guys know that, heck, you know, we can continue this conversation going forward. You know, and the way you do that is over in our Discord, where it all happens. You know, the Brew and Activate's got its own channel there. We've been keeping a lively conversation going, especially with this. There's been a few folks posting about their, you know, what they know is POTA myths there. So we'll share a few of those. It's full of people who love to help. There's no judgment, and so the link's there in the Discord below, or I'll throw that in the chat if you happen to want to grab it now. And so, with that, let's get into our usual POTA Minute this morning, and we got an interesting one for you. I know that always strikes a chord with Shannon because I can see her head bouncing in the background there. So this is our POTA Minute. It's one small POTA idea. You know, it's a real world observation. It's only 60 seconds, guys. This is just to get you thinking. You know, again, no right answers here, just stuff you start noticing after a few activations or maybe a few hundred hunts, you know, either way. So maybe this might happen to you. Just so say it in the chat. Let us know. If you think differently, even better, let us know. We always want to kind of keep the conversation going here. So with today's POTA Minute, we're going to talk about social media and how it always shows the highlight reel of POTA. I don't know about you, but you go on all the channels out there, the big ones, K9VBR, you know, Ham Radio Tube, those, you know, they all show us how great and grandiose, you know, POTA is and how easy it is to get out and do stuff and whatnot. But it never shows any of the cleanups, the setups, you know, it really just focuses on the sunny parks, the beautiful birds chirping, you know, the fun activities of POTA, making the contacts and whatnot. But it never shows you those real true gaps of like how long it took from one contact to the next, you know. So what you might be missing, you know, like we have here, the bugs, the wind, how many times we have to retune an antenna or maybe fix an antenna because it's not tuning up properly. You know, again, guys, it's okay. Just remember, most activations look normal and they aren't perfect. You know, if yours feels messy, just like this photo here, yeah, you're doing it right. And that's the end of my POTA Minute there.
Yeah, they cut out the parts where, you know, their batteries died 3 times.
Yes,
in
right.
the same activation. Grouch.
Is he in the chat? No, you can't hold him over. I have done that myself. There have been a few flubs. Mike, do you care to? This is the circle of trust. Have you edited those out of your videos? Did your mic go away, Mike? You're muted. No. Oh no, where did Mike go? His audio's gone. Silly camera. All right, well, let's poke out of this one here and go back to the main channel so Mike can add to that. Go ahead and say it now.
Oh, it was muted. You can hear me now, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know why the mute button was clicked. I don't know. Maybe,
weird.
I don't know. Maybe I coughed and forgot to unmute it, but I was like, no.
So you were saying before you were muted.
I was going to say, I debated on putting this in my video for the VHF contest, which I'll probably put out on Tuesday. It's members only now. So I'll plug my channel, join, and you get early access to videos. But I thought about sharing it. I cut my hand, and I think I mentioned this on the Northeast
Oh,
live
yes, you
stream,
were
maybe.
bleeding. Yes.
Yeah, the mast froze when I did the VHF contest rove. It was, cold like it is out now, and the mast in my last park, I was having a hell of a time trying to. There it is. Okay, there's the clip.
Mhm.
And it just eventually it just boom, and I didn't think anything of it. But as I'm packing up some of the PVC that I use for a few of the masts, there was blood just smeared like all over. It stood out because it was white, even though it was dark out. I was like, "What is this?" And I looked down at my hand, and like there's blood all over my hand. It's kind of healed up now, but it wasn't a big cut or anything. But it was getting all over. So you want to talk about messy? And I was like, "Do I put that in the video, or do I share that out on social media?" Just because I'm thinking,
You
I
bled for your POTA, Mike.
yeah. But I don't mind sharing the mistakes and the mix-ups and stuff like that. At the same time too, I do like to keep video. I like to be respectful of people's time too. And so you can't always put everything in there. But yeah, no, that was definitely messy. I had a bad adapter I had to swap out that was throwing the SWR off. I was having trouble with one of the coax switches. Like it just they don't always go as planned. That's for sure.
They don't.
Which,
But
I mean, brings home the point that you should have a POTA first aid kit.
yes,
Yep, I do.
he does. And then that he stopped the bleeding. He moved on. He wrapped a tourniquet around his arm for this, cut his circulation off to his arm altogether.
Yeah.
And then POTA on. He didn't go to the hospital.
Yeah,
He's
no,
a real American hero.
Yeah, most of the time I'm like right in or near my car for a lot of activation. So I do have a little first aid kit in there. But then I have one of like the little Altoid boo-boo kits, like an Altoid tin with some stuff that I keep in like my bags as well. So it's got, a couple bandages, like an insect sting thing, alcohol pads, just like a couple basics things in case I'm not near the car. But yep.
Yeah, I just carry around a bottle of super glue and I'm good to go.
Yep.
Sorry, that's Grouch speaking.
Just stick those parts back on. You'll be good.
You just glue it back on and move on. But so you're missing out on content opportunity there as a now that you have a membership channel, you should be posting those as member only sections, like small little clips of you bleeding out and your antenna catching fire kind of thing.
I don't think anyone wants to see a bloody hand.
You'd be surprised, man. There'd be a lot of people that'd be like, all of a sudden your memberships will just shoot through the roof. Try it, see what happens. You might draw them in. I might draw also some crowd that you might not be looking for, but hey, that's the run you run. But all right, well, good on that one. So yeah, just a little food for thought. Interesting. Anybody post anything in their chat about some of their stuff? I know I saw Ted saying a little earlier that he likes to see that stuff. So, yep, blood and gore sometimes sells. That's what they say. And I guess Ted was saying, what was your mask, carbon or fiber? Carbon fiber or stainless?
It's fiberglass, yeah.
Okay.
It was the MFJ one.
Very good. All right. Yeah, I had spare bungee cords all working huge pile up. Yeah. I those don't work well in the wintertime. I don't know about you, but I try to avoid spare bungee cords in the wintertime, especially if they, get super stretched out and, you release one of them too quickly, you can definitely, take a beating, lashing too. So be careful with your basically bungee cords there in the winter. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit of some of our topic this morning. So like we alluded to, Shannon's back. Like I said, we didn't fire her. She didn't get laid off. There was nothing of the sort. She doesn't get paid anything at all. So she's just here on her own accord. And Mike decided to come and hang out with us too as well, since he had some free time in his schedule. So we appreciate you hanging out, Mike, as always. And again, you're always welcome.
I appreciate the honorarium and stuff. Very,
you're very welcome.
Very much appreciated. You didn't have to do that much.
I didn't, but I want to anyway. for all you do for me. All right. So with that, we're going to kind of talk a little around the top 5 POTA myths, I think. And these aren't anything specific, but stuff I've kind of heard and scouring through some of the, the discords and other, interwebs and stuff like that. Especially you can find a lot of content up on QRZ, which some days I just realize that I should stop looking there because it's like a train wreck or a slow car accident waiting to happen. And, there are, there are things that like, I go, that's content gold. But then at the same time, I'm like, it took me a long time to get there. It's hurt my soul. So, yeah, just be wary, a little, err on the side of caution when going to QRZ forums. So we're going to talk a little around our top 5 POTA myths. And these are kind of the most common ones that I kind of pulled out. And we're going to start from 5 and count down here. And we're just going to kind of leave it open. So you guys feel free to chime in, add your 2 cents, cut me off. And those in the chat, please, if you've got your own or maybe you've heard a few and you wanted to spell a few, throw those in the chat as well. Let us know. And we'll try to address them here tonight because I think between us 3, put all of our minds together. We've got a superpower POTA activator in the midst right here. So, we'll be able to at least hopefully answer you or provide you at least some direction, depending on how weird and crazy the myth is. But with that, let's get into that. So let's head over to our non-whiteboard session here. And let's back up the slides here. So I love, some of my newfound friends here in the computer world. AI does, help quite immensely there. In some, of I love the thumb there. Like if we notice that shit, like the AI just added it in, and I was like, I'm gonna leave that there. I think that's kind of cool because if anybody knows that
AI did a great job making my thumb, I guess.
Although if you look at the thumb, it looks more like a man hand. Like you can see the knuckles look a little bit bigger than a female hand is. But hey, I didn't criticize. I'm not going to tell AI any different. It probably would have made it look really weird if I tried to change it otherwise. All right, so let's dive into this. So maybe you've been hanging around parks on the air long enough. We all have, at least in this crew, and so you hear a lot of rules that I don't think are rules at all. And today we're going to dive in. We're going to bust some of the 5 most common POTA myths, like I mentioned, stuff that kind of keeps some people from activating. And I it's kind of funny when I say that and I let that roll out of my mouth because I go do presentations for clubs on POTA and other things like that. And I can't tell you how many times people come up to me is like, well, I don't know how to do POTA because someone said I have to have blah, blah, blah and all of this. And they get analysis paralysis and they kind of just like freeze. And I'm just like, dude, do you have a radio? Yeah. Do you have an antenna? Yeah. Well, then go do POTA. That there's no more than just that. The rest is kind of just figure it out on your own, or you need help, or worse off, come with me and I'll take you and we'll go do a POTA together. And I'll show you how you don't need, the shack in a box kind of thing to get out there. And so we'll talk a little bit about that and figure out why it keeps people from activating or maybe overcomplicates the hobby because, hey, us hams, we love to overcomplicate things sometimes, right? It depends is our
overcomplicate,
mantra.
overthink.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Overbuild. All right. So let's clean up some of this and clean up the air a little bit here. So AI is killing POTA. It could be. It might. Give it time, Bob. It's just brand new. We'll see if it actually survives, the collapse. But with that, all right, let's get into POTA myth 5, starting from the bottom and working up. Myth number 5 is you need a perfect setup before you activate. How many think so? Definitely not. POTA is not a perfection contest. I don't know about you. If it was a beauty contest, I'd fail miserably in that department. Definitely, I don't have the good looks. I don't have the smarts either. So I'd definitely not be able to check the boxes for that. It's a get on the air program for most people. Just understand that. Just get on the air. That's really what it's designed for. You don't need, like I mentioned, the ideal antenna. You don't need the quietest park, although that'd be nice sometimes depending on where you go. And you definitely don't need the latest radio. I mean, have you guys ever heard of that myth at all? Or have someone speak that to you guys at all or hear it in circles?
I think it's something that a lot of individuals use as an excuse to kind of hold themselves back. That, they don't have, that they're worried that it has to be ideal. I don't think it's anything that necessarily propagates like amongst the public so much as it is something that's internal, like how we are as hams. We overthink things, and stuff. But yeah, it's so true. You don't need a perfect setup,
Nope.
and all that. You don't have to use dipoles that are half a wavelength up in the air all the time and all these things. No.
Mm-hmm.
I think people worry that, you know, they might not have what they need, or they don't have the ideal stuff or the newest stuff or whatever, and maybe it holds them back and stuff. But no, I think part of the fun is the
Improvisation.
improvising in the field, where sometimes you don't know what it's going to be like until you get there.
Right.
And you can do your research and everything, and give a good example. I did a 5 park row of QRP, and I did 5 antennas, 5 watts, 5 parks, and I was able to look up the wildlife park, this wildlife management area, and I knew where the parking section was, but you could only fit like 2 or 3 cars. I got there, it was packed. Like there's just barely enough room for my car, and it totally, like, I was like, I'm not going to be able to set up like I wanted to. You can scout in advance as much as you want, but like until you're there that day and you see where people are or what the weather's like or anything else, like you just got to be ready to adapt and be flexible. That's part of the fun and the learning experience for me.
Yeah.
So I like that challenge.
Totally, man. It's a challenge, I think, that just makes your skill set sharper and your interest level deeper, because you just like, oh my gosh, I've faced a challenge and I've gotten to learn a little bit more, or I got to, learn what not to do and figure out how to, change the situation around to make it, actually turn out to be a successful activation or whatever. So yeah, I 100% buy into that. How about you, Shannon?
Yeah. I mean, like Ed just said, it's great to take a new ham out and use something simple like a BNC to banana adapter with speaker wire. Showing them it can be real simple, then show them what I use for POTA. So, I mean, that was my first antenna, and that was really my first POTA experience, even though it was at Linwood's Reservation. So just using that speaker setup plugged right into the back of my G90 with, what was it, a 9 amp hour, 12-volt sealed lead acid battery. So,
Wow.
Probably like less than $500 worth of stuff. And I was on the air making contacts from, Massachusetts to Washington State to, probably across the pond in the UK and Europe on 20
Yeah.
watts. So, it doesn't take a lot, just, try to use what you have if you can. I mean, even though like a FT710, it's not like the smallest, most portable radio. It is portable,
Not a field
right?
radio either.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really considered like a field radio or a portable radio, but people use it for POTA. I mean, that's now my
Exactly.
main, that's like my main POTA
And
radio
soda.
now.
It's
Yeah,
Oda.
so okay, I mean, if you want to drag that up a soda, that's a you
Mike did.
thing.
Yep, I did.
I'm not planning on dragging that up a soda anytime soon, unless maybe it's like the Mount Washington 10-point drive up. But I think, yeah, people kind of get in their heads that like, I don't have this, I don't have that, but like, look at what you do have and how you can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very much exactly that. Like, you're going to use the gear that you have in front of you. And I know I give people a hard time with a 710 field version. I get mad because the field version is touted as a field radio, but like they stretching in my mind what we define as field radios, because at least where I looked at it or how I understand field radios is they're a little smaller. They're like a G90, or they're even smaller. They're kind of QRP kind of style. They're meant to be very portable, very, agile, and not weigh a lot. But that does not matter really when you get out and do POTA. Like a 710 works really great. A DX10, I know people, good friends of mine take their DX10s out all the time and use them, and those are totally fine radios. Actually, those are really, really good radios if you want to be able to use some of the filtering in it and that type of stuff. But like Mike said, don't take them on a soda unless you've got a major concern, or you've got only so much time left on the planet and you want to get as much as maximum time out of that experience wise. So all good there, and definitely a kind of a rule of thumb, like whatever you've got with you. I mean, I don't know. How far is too far? Like, would be taking Drake twins out to a park too far?
I just have fun. Like at the end, work with what you got, figure out how. There's tons of ways to improvise and whatnot, but work with what you got, have fun. And then as you get out and you activate more, you're going to learn what's ideal for you in the parks near you. It's going to be different for everybody and stuff.
100%.
Maybe you're able to do a lot of activations from the car, maybe you're not. Things like that make a huge difference in the gear and everything and stuff. And then if you're where we are and you have 4 seasons, that goes even further. Like the antennas and the radios almost become secondary. Then you got to worry first about shelter. Are you gonna activate outside? Are you gonna have to put up a tent with a little heater or something like that, or can you do it from a car like I can in a lot of spots? It's different. So
I thought here, at least in the Northeast, we had like 6 seasons, and 3 of those were winter, and then the other 2 were like something that we just kind of bat an eyelash at, and then we're back through winter again. So
we get 4 seasons in the same week sometimes, in like October and April. You know it.
Mother Nature's like, here, I'll sample this for you. But yeah, we may or may not stock this later. All right. Well, good. So like, I think kind of
seasons.
But sadly, it's one I don't want to drink. Just give me one. So like, I think just kind of summarize that really quickly. It's like if your gear works and you can make contacts, then you're ready. Just get out there and try it. That's the best you can do. All right. So let's get on to.
Just remember, guys, the OMs used to bring big tube radios out into the field for field day back in, the 50s, 60s. Okay.
Well,
any radio is a portable. Any radio can be portable if your will is strong enough.
Yeah.
And if you have a POTA wagon.
Oh my gosh! Well, now available on liftfreehandham.com
Yes. Yes.
When I did the soda with the 710, when I did the soda with the 710, it was in the backpack for the hike up and down. But I had the wagon just in case. And it was kind of like.
Does Mike have a POTA wagon shirt?
No, he doesn't yet.
I do not have the shirt. I should get one.
Oh, we're gonna have to fix that.
But I had the wagon just in case, because I do have a bad back from football. And it was kind of like if you ever watched, Top Gear or Grand Tour, and they always have like the backup car that would follow the guys on the adventures. Yes. Like the wagon was kind of just like lurking in the background. Like, if my back goes, I got it,
I know. Well, you will still go on. Yes, we're developing the POTA wagon, the official POTA wagon. I think Shannon's still in design phase with that. But, that'll soon to come someday. All right. So like it says here, if your gear works, you're ready to make contact. So let's get on to myth 4 here. We're not on myth 3 yet. Myth 4 here. Come on. All right. You need high power to be successful. Yep. There we go. Yep. No, you don't. QRP and low power work every single day in POTA. I don't know about you. I'm getting warmer. I'm warming up to QRP and enjoying that a little bit more and more as I kind of get deeper into my POTA, kind of career and life. I've seen activations with 5 watts with someone struggles at 100 watts. It's one of those things, knowing your equipment, learning and growing in that sense that those that are at the QRP level that love to do it have learned immense, vast knowledge of how their inner workings of radios, antennas, and coax and all that stuff kind of all interoperates and works to their benefit. And in the conditions too. I mean, like I watch, folks like Mike and whatnot go out and do QRP a lot of times, and it's just amazing, what he reports back in terms of contacts, and it's a great mode. So before we kind of get into why it's faulty, obviously, what's your take on this, guys?
Well, you know how I feel. You have to quadruple your power just to get one S unit. So say take the G90 at 20 watts, right? So if I quadruple my power to like 80 watts, that's only one S unit. That's the difference between, the G90 and the 710 almost, right? So, if you're already being heard at, a true S9 with with the 710, you're going to be S8 with the G90. It's not that big of a difference. You're still being heard.
Mike, comments?
Yeah, I've done a handful of 1 watt POTAs. I've done plenty of QRP ones at 5 or 10 watts. It works. Obviously lower power things matter more. Your setup, your antenna, the band conditions, and all that stuff. The modes that you use. I set the G90 being my first radio. 20 watts isn't technically QRP, so I say lower power. But when you operate at lower power, you learn more. You learn about the importance of feed line or the importance of antenna setup, different types of antennas, the different modes, all that stuff. So it's a good learning experience. I enjoy it. It's less that I got to bring, on one hand. Sometimes I like pileups, and sometimes I could care less. And I don't need a massive pileup. Sometimes it's easier without a pileup, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
And but then you have those awkward pauses. You're like, oh no, am I going to be able to get those last 2 QSOs in and activate? We all know that pressure and stuff. But no, I've struggled with 50 or 100 watts at times when there's been really poor band conditions and stuff. But I've knocked it out of the park. QRP.
Have you ever gotten to a place where maybe you had a 100-watt rig and you somewhere along the line lowered it down to 50 and didn't realize for the last 6 activations you've done you were running at 50 watts and you thought you were doing phenomenally well and you could hear both stations, and then when you realized, you were like, oh my.
When it's funny you say it, when I got the 7300 is my second radio, I still had the G90. I was just running it at 50 watts. Like the first few months and stuff. And some of it was like the antennas I had were geared towards the G90. There were things like an Alex loop that was only 20 watts, or the KM4 ACK NFET half wave, which I think was rated for 50. And so I was, I had 100 watts, and I kind of was like, oh, I got to see what I'm missing out on. And then I wasn't even using it all.
Yep.
I have forgotten to plug in a battery to the 705 a couple times, or I haven't had it plugged in just enough, just right, where I'd be doing a POTA on 5 watts thinking I was on 10, and then realize after oh, that was just 5 watts. I thought so I've done those. So
okay, cool.
Yep.
How about you, Shannon? You read into that scenario with yourself, or you always check your power level before you transmit?
I mean, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head where I was running lower power than what I intended to. I usually, I just almost always leave the 710 on 100 watts. I don't do digital with the 710 out in the field as of yet.
Okay.
But at home I might have accidentally done that with the FTDX10, since I do digital modes at home, and I try to keep it at 50 watts since I've, blown up a couple 9-to-1s.
Okay. Well, we'll have to circle back on that story in a bit, because that's got my curiosity piqued a little bit. I've seen a few cook at very high level power, but 50 watts. Wow. Okay. Well, as we kind of alluded, antennas do matter more than power a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our conversation last week when we were talking about coax, and then the week before that we were talking about, kind of antennas in that piece. Then you might want to go back, check those out. Yes, antennas are one of those things that matter a heck of a lot more, and it kind of makes sense if you put it in your, the logical approach that's the last haul. That's where all your RF and wigglies are going out, and if you're not, whatever you put in at the beginning, whether it's 5, 10, 50, 100 watts, it doesn't really matter what it's going to look like at the end, unless the 2 other components, the coax and your antennas, are providing adequate, efficient delivery of that information, that RF and that energy. So yes. So as we always like to say, takeaways from this one: if you're being heard, then you already have enough power. I think that's a kind of a good stance to think about. Funny thing is with QRP, I didn't mention that, I think I should, is that I find running QRP actually narrows the deluge of people trying to hunt you. Like you end up kind of like being less like obnoxiously sticking out. Like people who can really hear a good QRP station will obviously come back. And when people are, you're not dealing with just like all of that pile up that constantly, on top of you. When you're QRP, it might be a little bit harder for other people to kind of pull you out. And so, you might get more what I call quality contacts that might, be more in tune for, running at those power levels. So, yeah, might be something where you might start QRP and, learn.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like, here's a pro tip. So if anyone is getting started in POTA and they're a little nervous, you're a little nervous about dealing with pileups, mic fright, things like that. Whatever it is, go out on a weekday and operate with lower power. You don't have to operate with 5 or 10 watts, but turn the power down and just go out on a weekday, not a contest weekend. Go out where it's going to be a slower pace. Like it's definitely a slower pace at 6:30 in the morning. Let me tell you, like, you've got lots of time to enjoy your coffee and everything. But if that's what it takes to get you comfortable with, working a pileup, dealing with new logging software or something like that, then just go when it's slower, and you can go at different times of the day and week, but you can also just turn the power down a little bit, and stuff. So.
Yep.
I know when I learn CW, I am not gonna my first like CW POTA, like when I'm calling CQ, it's gonna be with low power and like a ham stick
on purpose. Yep. Maybe even to start with a W load there, and then that way you can gradually work up to the real antenna.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very much one of those things that we did an episode a while back on US test. This is where you'd want to play with that. And, fooling around with lower power, understanding some of that stuff, because there's no pressures, there's no, need to, log per se, any length. But it'll give you that opportunity to do that from the comfort of your own home and not have to haul, various gear out there that, I've seen a lot of people in the chat saying back and forth that they're just trying to get their gear kind of like in a place that they're not like hauling a big giant trailer with them. And so, always something to kind of consider in that process. So. Cool. All right. Well, that was a good one. Again, obviously, we had mentioned that, we are doing the top 5 myths here. So if you just joined us, we love that you're hanging out with us this morning, and hope you're enjoying this topic, because I think it's an interesting one to kind of get into here. So we're on to now myth 3. And myth 3 here is you need expensive gear to do POTA. No, you don't. It's simple as that. You can get away with used radios. You can do DIY antennas. You can use gear that people have already, owned or used or loaned to you. I actually have a QT60 that was loaned to me, and that's available for, obviously, I see a new technician or whatever wanting to get into POTA. That would be a perfect fit for that. You can power that off a battery, and you get a ham stick, like Mike says, and you're on 10 meters. Simple as that. You're off to the races, and simple and easy. There's no frills radio. Just kind of get out there and you start, making contacts. So, it's that type of stuff. The reason why it's kind of false, because POTA rewards the efficiency. Remember, this is an exercise in learning how to be better at playing radio and, practicing, ham radio communication. Simple antennas always outperform, some of the expensive radios that, you might have. So even if you've got, a DX10, or you got you threw the money down on a KX3 or whatever, you're not going to like magically get more contacts because you threw money at the problem. It's really kind of what it boils down to. And so, what do you guys take on that?
The cheap stuff, like, sometimes can be just as good. Like, that there's an argument to be made about coax as a disposable commodity or not, and if you're doing portable operations, you're probably using around 25 feet of coax. It's a common length. Maybe you got, up to 50 or so, but at the shorter lengths, there's going to be differences, obviously in quality and stuff. But as far as loss and some of those things, it's not going to be as bad. You can get by with a lot of my coax is from Amazon and stuff and cheaper stuff. You can get by with that. I still use, and I was talking about the VHF contest earlier, still use a speaker wire dipole for 6 meters. I have a Yagi, but I ain't putting that thing together when it's like 2 degrees out, it's, and I'm roving. I'll put up and it's speaker wire and a BNC, connector. It's on PVC that was like going to be tossed away at my buddy's work that he like salvaged, and it's a cheap, but it works just fine. You don't need to do have a lot of stuff or expensive stuff. You can get by with inexpensive things, and think about it, like when you go out to do POTA, you're not going out for more than a couple hours probably. Yeah, we do camp outs and stuff here or there, but I think the majority of the activations are probably maybe just a few hours here or there. You don't need to have the most expensive stuff.
Nope. No, and in fact, you probably have the opposite effect of like you're so worried about damaging your expensive stuff that you're not really enjoying POTA.
Yep.
How about you, Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know how to use your radio, having the most expensive radio isn't going to help you, right? Look at what happened on the 24-hour POTA camp out. You guys didn't know how to set up the FTDX10s with, the different modes and filters and all that. So, it didn't help that, you guys had this really nice radio. If you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you very much good. So, that's another reason why it's good to use what you have, use what you're comfortable with, so that you're familiar with your radio and your settings. And then, you're going to be able to use it more effectively in the field.
Yep. Yeah, I think, was it Ed, W9US, said it pretty eloquently. He says, as I tell the new hams, as I tell the new hams, buy what you can at first and get going, then replace things and gift other new hams that need your old stuff. 100%. Like, I am a big pay it forward kind of guy. I don't like to accumulate all of the toys because I don't subscribe to the he who dies with the most toys wins attitude. So, I'm all about like finding new people to be able to pass it on that'll get use. And I don't know about you, that it's pretty rewarding to be able to pass it on to someone who's going to use it and use it well and, get every bit of little energy and expertise out of it and then move it on. And so, yeah, that always kind of warms my heart and, makes me, super excited to see some of that stuff. So that's a great encouragement for sure, getting people. And it's always fun to be able to, like, I try to do it every time I take someone out on a POTA, make sure I bring a little thing with me that I know I want to pass on. I kind of did that with Chris, Whiskey 8 CJL, and his son, Parker. He was on the fence when I did the POTA with Chris, and he was just hanging out with us, kind of just lingering in the background. And I had a Buddy Pole Pro in a bag in my truck, and I never used that antenna. Like, I was just I bought it off of someone else to think I was going to use it, never used it. And I said to Parker, hey, if you get your ticket, and work towards getting your ticket, I'll give this antenna to your dad and he can hold on to it, and then it'll be yours when you get, your ticket. And literally within 2 weeks, he got his ticket and he was on the air playing with his, Buddy Pole Pro. And so, like, it's that kind of thing to be able to get someone more excited because they're like, oh, I want to learn more about it. They have something to kind of, work towards as a goal. And so, really cool.
Roger had a good comment too. He made the Jerry
HQD.
pole, the KG6 HQD 10 meter. I've made that for 6 and 17 and stuff. Yeah, you don't need much.
Nope. No, usually most of that stuff is probably somewhere in a junk drawer somewhere in your house, and you just need to unearth it and put it to use. So, all right, well, we'll wrap that one up. Bottom line, skills and understanding always beat out money every time. I know there are people who always do the buy once, cry once kind of approach, but, think in terms of how you can retain knowledge and grow with it. And then when you get to something more expensive, like a Flex or whatever, then you'll learn to appreciate it more because you have a good understanding of filtering and all of the other stuff that kind of goes with it. Just like Shannon said. I mean, I have lost all my DX10 knowledge when I had one because I passed it on to my dad, and that's when I graduated to a Flex. And yeah, when I sat down on the radio, I'm like, how do I tune this again? I'm so used to the little software control keyboard and my mouse. It's killing ham radio, as they say, right? Right, Mike?
Yep.
All right. Cool.
You heard
Anything
it here first, folks. Flex Radio is killing ham radio.
Ham radio. We're not sponsored, so I can get away with it. All right. Going on to our myth 2, nearing down to the last one here. This one, if I don't get a pileup, I'm doing it wrong. Yeah. How untrue is this? Absolutely not. Not every activation turns into a 200 or a zoo. Sorry, if I could read my writing here. And that's normal. So no, pileup doesn't mean failure. Pileup just means that, people are hearing you and excited to work you for whatever reason. But it's not like you have to have a pileup every activation. Just making contacts is perfectly fine. It actually is probably good to have a break in there between. I mean, what's your experience, either of you guys?
I mean, some people don't even call CQ on POTA. When you're on a POTA, you never have to say that you're even on a POTA. You can just scroll the band and make contacts and rag chew with people and log it, and that counts as your POTA. So, I mean, you can POTA the way you want to. If you want to call CQ, if you want to try to attract that pileup, great. I love pileups. It gives me an adrenaline rush. I want to, I want to have to, give people partial call signs and be like, come back to me if you have a 1 in your call sign, because that was the only thing that I could catch out of there.
But you got to get your fix for pileups. Is that what you're getting?
Yeah,
at?
exactly.
You and Jabberjaws.
That's me. I like to have pileups, but not everybody likes that. So do POTA the way that you want to operate. You're the boss of your station.
See, Jabberjaws is already shaken. She hasn't had a pileup in the last 6 hours, so she's just duplicating words. She needs her fix. So yeah,
it definitely can be a rush. Yeah. No, I mentioned it earlier when we talk about QRP and high power and stuff. Like you don't need a pileup, and there's times where I'm cool without one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I don't have a lot of time to activate, then yeah, I want that pileup. I want to get in, get out, because I got to get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's fine. Sometimes it's a matter of just the time of day, the day of the week, when you're out, and band conditions and everything, that can make a huge difference. If you go out
100%.
on a major weekend, there's going to be a lot of people operating. It's the weekend, versus, if you go out, and I was talking about earlier shifts before, but, talk about late shifts. Sometimes you go out for a late shift POTA during the week, like a Tuesday night or something. It's going to feel like you're the only one out there. And you're gonna have a pileup, like, because you're one of the only, the few parks that's on there, so it's, everyone has their preferences and stuff, but just because you don't get a pileup doesn't mean, you're doing something wrong or whatever. There's so many other factors.
Now, being a YouTuber, and Shannon, obviously, you stream some of you, or basically record some of your activations and stuff like that. Do you find that you're always hunting, or you just attract more of those pileups early on, or is it just, kind of hit or miss, like you said, based off band time, conditions, day?
Well, I mean, obviously, maybe because I'm a YL, I might attract more people to come back to me when I'm calling CQ. I find that, like, a lot of the times I'll get a pileup, but like I said, maybe that's just due to the unique nature of being a young lady on the radio.
Okay.
I mean, remember, again, look at what happened at the 24-hour campout when I was on the radio. It's like people were coming back gangbusters, and then all of a sudden I switched the radio over to you guys and it died. Or, even when I was out there with Grouch, now, granted, Grouch is a lot more famous than I am, so maybe people just recognized his call sign. But, I feel like we had, on our activations, we had good pileups going on.
That is true. How about you, Mike? You find that same thing with your channel
I
doing POTAs?
I don't notice any difference. like you get like maybe someone like every other activation will say, "Oh, hey, I appreciate your videos and stuff," and it's awesome to hear that, and stuff like that. But I don't notice any major difference in the pileups or whatever. And like with POTA, like I go when I can, and sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's late at night, early in the morning, it's on a weekday, weekend, whatever. I'm not consistent with going to a park every Saturday at this time or whatever. So, but you recognize people, who are the active hunters that really make this, possible and fun, and and they're always in the mix and stuff. But I don't notice a major difference just because I got a YouTube channel now. I was doing POTA regularly for a couple of years before that happened. And it's pretty much the same.
My experience kind of with it is that I will spot and people will just start working me, but then one person will recognize me and be like, or like they'll hit me up on polo. Excuse me, they're working on polo, and I come up on polo as a YouTuber, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember blah blah," and they start talking, and then all of a sudden the pileup occurs right after that. It's like it's so weird, like, and then it dies off, and then people forget who they're talking with, and it's like I get a breather. So it's interesting to see because like I don't have any prior expectations when I go out and do activations, because I just do it with the purpose of that, I'm just there to have some fun and try out an antenna or whatever. And that was only like the icing on the cake if I end up getting into a pileup. So,
yeah, the comment on screen was a good one. Something we haven't really touched on. We've talked a lot about equipment and even times of day or this or that, but you go to parks that are rarely activated or haven't been activated. That's an entirely different story. It doesn't, that's totally independent of equipment and stuff like that. If it's something that the hunters want that hasn't been done before or is a rare one, then that makes a huge difference, versus a park that's activated, every freaking day of the week, like some of these longer ones and common ones and stuff. So
Yeah, or like the sort of rare states. Like, I don't know why a lot of people, I guess, have a hard time getting Maine on their, worked all states for POTA.
well, it's like us with Hawaii, right?
Like, one of my first POTAs was Mount Agamenticus in Maine. And yeah, that was like probably the first time that I experienced a real pileup. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And then, after after experiencing that a few times going out and doing POTA, then I kind of learned, and also from listening to other stations working pileups, I learned ways to kind of control the pileup and listen for bits and pieces of call signs, and call by numbers, or ask for DX only or QRP only, whatever it may be. But yeah, so I mean, like Maine as sort of I guess a rare state, or Vermont, if you're activating in those states, you're going to get, more people trying to call you. Even Roger just said he still needs Maine and Mississippi. I got to check my worked all states POTA. I'm not sure what states I need.
Yep, I've definitely got all of those. I ended up having to create a sked with a certain few individuals on 2 meter, to be able to get them on, the closer states that are a little tougher to get. So, you definitely have those things. But yeah, if you ever need someone in Maine and it's a warmer, climate, I'm game to kind of drive up to Maine and just give you a quick text, Roger, there, and say, hey, I'm here in Maine, come work me.
Well, I did that. That other park in Maine too. What was it called? Fort McCleary State Park. Yep. That was a great one. I would go back there for sure once it gets a little warmer.
100%. That's great. Actually, good, nice activation spot, especially in the spring, summer when there's no bugs and it's still nice. You get the breeze off the ocean, and
I mean, maybe we should plan like a brew and activate in the field live.
Yeah, we could do that.
Maybe.
I know we have live stream, cell service definitely up at McCleary, and Aggie definitely for sure, no problem. Although we've got some cell towers up there, or microwave towers that are a little challenging. But
so if you in the chat want to see me and Eric, and if Mike wants to come along, he's invited, of course. If you'd like to see us activate a park live on stream, let us know in the chat.
Yeah, or hit it up in Discord, and
Yeah.
we'll put it together when it gets warmer. Because I
actually thought about going out to do and do an FT8 POTA while I was on and doing it from the car, but
that would have been cool.
But like I gotta like hash some of that stuff out. Like I don't want to. It's too damn cold to begin with to be monkeying around with like overcomplicating things and trying to live stream at the same time that you're doing that. So, but excuse me, I'll get there.
To
We got a
answer
yes.
Bob's question there, he
Yeah.
said, when you have a pileup, do you feel obligated to answer every hunter? So I know for a fact that Shannon, the other Shannon, has smacked Sean's hand when he turns off the radio and goes QRP. And let me tell you, when I was with Grouch and he was like reaching over, turning off the radio, and we still had people calling, I was like, no. Because
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I feel bad
Yes, it is.
because, it's like those people, they wanted to talk to us so bad and make that contact. And, I feel like I'm letting them down by not answering their call. But, I get it. You're running out of time. You're running out of battery. There's always next time, right?
It's called
Well,
the 10-second contact syndrome.
Yeah. Well, here's a tip because that's never easy, or for a lot of people it's not easy. Well, one of my Elmers taught me. And I'll do this. Just say, okay, I got time to take 5 more. Say a number. Whether it's 10 or 5. But then you count down, and then after you work them, okay, I'll take 4 more. And once they realize that you are literally counting down, you're keeping track. People will. You're giving them a heads up, but I'll usually do that if I do have a pile up and I know I got to get out for one reason or another. Maybe I got to go leave to pick up my son for practice, and my time at the park's done. But I'll say I got time for 3 more. I got time for 2 more. All right, this is last call. I got to I'll say it, and people take the hint. And usually when I do that, you don't get those stragglers. And stuff that are, because as soon as you say, okay, I'm going QRT, someone's going to wait a second and they're going to throw their call sign out, and they're going to come back and you're just going to hear like N1JUR, and it's like, oh, all right, fine. All right, I'll get you in the log. And once you do that, then a couple other people jump back in.
You create a hole. When you start to create a hole after you've done, all the due diligence to prep them. Yeah, no, I have no, we'll say, feelings towards that. I am very much not a person that doesn't mind when I say, hey, I'm going QRT last call. I'll say last call as a kind of a builder for like 3 or 4. So I'll have like 3 or 4 QRZs before that. But I'll do last call, and there'll be I'll pile up, but I'll be like, okay, that's it. Thanks, guys, and then the radio goes off, and I will hear those I hear those calls all the time. They do happen, guys, but I just maybe have a stronger will. I don't know.
Yep.
All good, but definitely interesting to to kind of take it on. But again, bottom line with myth number 2 is comm activation is still a win, and actually probably one of those things I'd recommend for anybody as they're starting to get into POTA or do it. Take your time, like Mike said earlier. Start with QRP, and then that way you won't have to worry about the pile up as much because it's going to be a little harder for people to work. You might get more localized contacts. So all good there, and definitely enjoy the process, because that's what it's really about versus just getting the adrenaline rush all the time. All right, now on to our final one for today. Myth number 1. You have to be an expert to activate POTA. No, you don't. So, all right.
What the heck buzzer was that?
I'm
like
trying to mix it
twice
up
as long.
here. or we could do this one.
I don't think so. No.
Anyway, all right. So
You need the sad trumpet from The Price is Right.
the budget is a little tough here, the sound budget is a little low in that area, so you get what you get. You don't get upset, as they say. So, all right. The reality is POTA is one of the best learning environments in ham radio. We all agree to that 100% because I know I've learned a lot. I've gotten out there. I've done a lot of experimentation, a lot of failures with the idea of, that I'm learning more and growing and increasing my knowledge. And I'm still so far down, the path to ever really being fully into that place that I feel like I could be able to talk about anything or be able to, pinpoint, an issue as it kind of arises in front of me. But it's, again, false. Your hunters are patient and helpful. Most of them are. Mistakes are expected. Like I have posted on some of my community posts about, what folks are, talking about in regards to POTA, and the resounding message kind of came back. Yeah, mistakes are going to happen. And that's, what makes us better activators, better radio operators in general. And, if you're okay to understand that, yeah, you will make mistakes, then you're in a better place to learning how to learn from them and grow in your, your knowledge transfer of, playing radio and in the hobby as a whole. And every activation, we all know that makes you better. Like if I go, and Shannon mentioned it and Mike's mentioned it several times, your very first activation, you go back and look at that, you probably just laugh at it because it's like something you share over a beer because it was like probably the worst, not the worst experience, but probably the biggest experience, both from the experience as a whole, but like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot this, or I did this, or I almost shorted out my radio, or my SWO was like 4-1 versus, the minimum the radio could handle kind of thing. All of those are really good, kind of learning experiences, but it didn't shy us away from doing more of it. And so, what's your guys' take on that?
I mean, whether it's your first activation, your 10th activation, your 100th activation, no matter what it is, we all make mistakes, right? Sometimes they're silly mistakes. Like how many of us have forgotten to plug the antenna into the back of the radio? You've never done that?
Yes.
If you say you've never done that, then I know you're lying.
Exactly.
I've done that on more than one occasion. So, it's, how you handle the mistake. Do you learn from the mistake? Kind of, and none of us are experts, right? Ham radio is a hobby of learning. So, there is always something more and new to learn. We can always improve our skills. So none of us are experts.
For sure.
Yeah. So I was going out to do my first kilo. I was like, needed like 100 and something contacts. I'm like, I'm going to go out, and I ended up, spoiler alert, got like 200 and something. I had a great time. I get out, got the G9. This is when I had the G90 and it was pretty much that and the KM4 ACK end fed. So I get out to the park. It's a twofer. I set up the antenna, got the coax plugged in, go to run it into the car, and the G90 is on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
The antenna, the mast, everything is set up, and I'm like, oh my god. I'd take everything down.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Drive back home. It's like only a 15-minute drive. It was not far, but it was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I've forgotten batteries. When I forgot a battery, I was at least 2 miles from a house, but everything was all set up. And I called my wife and I'm like, there's a battery box on the kitchen table. Would you mind like just bringing it to me at the park, please? Like, it's, we've all forgotten things. We've all made mistakes. It is what it is. It's part of learning. When you look at, I always say when you operate portable, it doesn't have to be POTA, but when you operate portable, because you're getting out of your element, you're not in your shack where things might be turnkey. When you operate portable, it's always an opportunity to learn. It's always an opportunity to make mistakes, to learn ways to improve, to get a better sense of different setups, propagation, whatever. So, just embrace it as an opportunity to learn, and, and you'll be a better operator and a better Elmer for it.
Yeah. Shannon, I have to ask the question. it says Sean left me in the park. Was that because you forgot the battery and he had to go back to get it, or did he forget the battery and you're there just telling him that you got to go get the battery? Let's a little clarification on that.
Don't you know it's always the husband's fault, Eric?
No. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. There's not when it comes to POTA. It's your own fault.
Exactly. See, she just said, nope, he forgot it. So.
I don't see that in the chat at all. And especially in caps, doesn't make it any better. All right. Well, yeah. How about you, Shannon?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I always already said, we all make mistakes, whether we're new at it or not. I've forgotten my headphones before, and then I have to operate without headphones, which can make it harder to hear those weak stations. And I can't say that I've ever forgotten anything major. Like, I've never left my battery at home or left my radio at home, but these days the 710 just basically lives in the back of the Subaru, just in case I'm gonna make a last minute decision to go do an activation. But I've forgotten to plug the antenna in, and then I sit there wondering, like, geez, why won't my antenna tune, or why is my SWR so high? Oh, it's because I have no antenna actually connected to the radio. So we all do silly things, but it's all about learning and improving our setups, our stations, our operating procedures.
Yeah, 100%. It is all of those things. All of those are little stepping stones to make us better operators. And we all laugh at them now, but we all know that, like Mike said, your eye rolls in the back of your head. You're just like, why do I do this to myself, kind of thing. And, a 15-minute trip back and forth is still 30 minutes, Mike, which way you look at it. So it's 30 minutes you have to reflect.
Yeah.
Which is never good. But and then you have the other alternative. It's like, I've done the worst, I think, because every time I've forgotten something, I always put a copy of it in, say, my saddlebags in my truck, so I know I have it there. I have done the worst. Like, so here's an example. I always forget my coax for some reason, or I forget to bring my antenna bag, which has my set of coax in it. So I would go out to the site and I'd be like, oh crap, all right, well, I got to operate in the truck off my ATAS. And then a couple of times I've gone and said, all right, I'm going to just put coax in there, because I was doing, I got a new antenna, wire antenna, and I was like, all right, I'm going to use that. I've forgotten that I had put coax in the saddlebag inside the back of the bed, but in my brain, I never said, hey, idiot, the coax is in there. I got back in the truck, unpacked all my stuff, but back in the truck, drove half an hour, 45 minutes back home to grab the coax bag. And then when I get downstairs to grab the bag, I realized, oh yeah, I have coax in my truck already. I didn't have to drive all the way back. So at that point, just add insult to injury. So it really just, I need to have like some mental notes somewhere, like stick-it notes on my radio, say, hey, check the saddlebag. You probably put something there already to make sure you can finish the activation. So you build these little, like, kind of, places to store stuff away, or like Shannon says, she leaves the radio in the back of the car all the time. It's kind of those things that you don't want for me, the POTA activation is important, and I don't want it to go to waste. So, having those as a learning tool is definitely something you'll start to do in your, in your POTA life.
Yeah. You should embrace like those mistakes, those happy little accidents, because
Bob Ross.
And it's going to sound like I'm going off on a tangent, and maybe I am, but
That's okay.
I'll bring it back home. Is when my son was testing for his general, or studying for that, I had my extra and I was helping him out. My club had done a class for the techs where he got his tech, but he was kind of doing his general on his own with my help. And I realized a lot of the stuff that I was memorizing for my exams, I knew. I had been operating and doing POTA for a few months. I'd had my license for a few months. And things like what frequencies were on what bands, what lengths were for what antennas, things that I had to memorize my first time through. I knew off the top of my head, it just came from doing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with POTA. You could read a textbook, and there's books out there on POTA that tell you how to do it, different setups and strategies and all this stuff. But ultimately, just like it is with ham radio in general, by actually doing and encountering these problems or challenges, and mistakes and everything, it's a learning process. And the more that you do it and you get exposed to different scenarios for setups, or you make mistakes or you forget things, the better you become, because you know you're not reading it or someone's not telling you, like, you're experiencing it firsthand. And I think that, we all learn different, but when you make mistakes, yourself versus reading about them, those can sting a little bit more. And and they can also be, that opportunity to learn and move forward and stuff. So, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to fail in in an activation either. I know some people are like, oh, I'm not going out, there's solar storm, and they're afraid to fail. And it's like, don't worry, you know, if you don't want to waste the time, I get it, but like, don't be afraid just because you're not going to get a complete activation. And
Well,
yeah,
you said it there. I mean, so in essence, you're not wasting your time, because in essence, it might force you to try something a little different that you might not do out of the norm, like simple things like you go out and activate. Oh, I'll always go on 20. Well, the bands aren't great. 15 might be better. Well, you've never been on 15 because you never remember. Now you've got to set up a great learning experience. So.
Or like we've talked about before, things to do in your activation when the bands are rough, doing digital modes, FT8, or if HF is down, try to switch and try to do VHF, UHF activation if you can, try to get some local people on Simplex. So, there's always different ways out there. And, kind of like what it says on your little infographic there, hunters are patient and helpful. And I think we need to remember that we all like to talk about the sad hams, the mad hams, but 99% of the hams are not those sad hams and mad hams. I think 99% of the hams are nice, friendly, helpful, courteous people, just like you and me. And if you make a mistake, and a lot of times, if I mess up someone's call sign, I'll apologize, sorry, let me fix that, heard it wrong, whatever. You just kind of laugh it off and move on to the next one.
Yeah, 100%. You got it right. Have a good attitude with it, and just fluff it off and move on, because otherwise you're gonna just...
One thing to mention too, like you talk about the hunters and stuff, because I know we're talking a lot about activators and everything. I just try to, like, we don't get to do what we do unless there's someone on the other side of the radio, like the hunters, and it's as much for them as it is for the activators. And my one failed activation, from the island of Icacos off Puerto Rico, where I had 15 minutes to activate, this island that only been activated one other time. Or no, actually twice, but by the same activator. I knew I'd probably fail. I set up, I knew I got 15 minutes on the radio. But the first contact was Bruce in Indiana, Kilo 9, India, Charlie Papa. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing it, to give out a rare one. Bruce. I don't care if I wanted to get the activation. I did not, but I got 6 contacts, and it is what it is. I did. It was not as much as it was about me. It's about them as well, because we don't get to, you're not going to get a pileup if there's no hunters. So, just keep that in mind too. Yep.
Well,
the hobby goes both ways.
Very much, and you hit it the nail on the head, Mike. I mean, if anything, you walked away with giving Bruce a contact with something he probably was looking to get in his log, and that makes a big difference for sure. Especially, you never know who is the other person on the other end. They could be a paper chaser, they could be there just because they want to support you, but they also may be trying to get certain goals met for either testing their antennas, or testing their radios, their setups. Hunters, you guys have a big responsibility, because you guys are stationary. You don't have the excuses of, oh, I have a poor antenna, or my coax is in water, or my radio is just not working the right way, kind of thing, because you're out in the field. You're at home, you've tuned your station the right way, you've set it up to your benefit to optimize it the best way. So it is definitely something that we as activators have to take somewhat seriously, for sure. which actually kind of interesting segue, Mike, because I feel like we've left that little segment out in this crew, in our brew crew here. So I've got actually a couple of weeks lined up where we're talking only for hunters. So if you are a hunter and you love doing hunting, we are going to get into the weeds with that stuff. We'll talk a little about some really good tidbits there. And hopefully we'll have a few, I'm trying to line up a few hunter-specific folks on to come in and chit-chat and share their experiences as hunters and why they kind of do it, because I think, like Mike said, they are the key ingredient to making this system work the way it does.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, let's put a little bow on this and kind of summarize. Again, these aren't all the myths. These are the kind of the 5 that I thought were, kind of important to kind of shed some light on and bring to, you guys' attention. And hopefully it struck a chord with you a little bit. And you understood, it helped clear up the air, as they say. So, just summarizing it, most POTA myths for me exist because people always overthink it. I have always done training. I've always done, basically talks. And I always get I can't do this, or they analysis paralysis kind of sets in. But again, really the hobby is supposed to be fun. If you remember that, I know we drill that home a lot, but if you remember that, then everything else kind of just falls off and you can really see the true, kind of plan and spirit of it. And bottom line is, if that radio you got turns on, you can get the antenna in the air and you're calling CQ, then bottom line, guess what? You're doing it right. It's simple math. I mean, A plus B equals C in this case equation, and you can't get any more simpler than that. So stop waiting. Stop upgrading your system. Like I've ran into an activator at a park a while back, kind of triggered the thought. He was always like looking to improve his gear, or like it was like that's all he was focused on, and that's cool because that's like sort of like the builder mentality that we have in the hobby, where people just love to build stuff, but they don't play with their radios. They don't they don't use them out in the field, or they test it once and then it goes on the shelf and they on to the next build project. Don't worry about what that gear looks like. Play with it, learn it, grow, become more experienced, and stop worrying. And then bottom line, go activate if you're going to do, activation, and get out there. All right. I think we kind of focused on those a little bit enough there this morning. Any you guys want to throw into before we put a little bow on this today?
No, I think we pretty much, summed it up.
Cool.
Don't believe the myth. Make your own legend.
Don't believe the hype. I'm just waiting for Chuck D in the background. All right. Or Flavor Flav. I need the big giant ham clock.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, as always, we just like to say, hey, if you found any of this content useful or anything, you can always help us out. Subscribe to all of our channels and share this with one ham who might enjoy it. I'm getting close to my 5,000 subscriber list there, so we're going to be doing a bunch of cool giveaways. So Brew and Activate is just one more way you can kind of share and spread the love here. So if you got some information or you got some good content out of what we talked about today, then definitely share that and spread the love. Let people know what's going on. And if you haven't already, head on over to our Discord. The link is in all of our descriptions and all of our show notes there. And we'd love to have you over there. We always like to try to continue that conversation. And from there, we appreciate all of our folks that come over there and hang out and chit chat. And so remember, whether you're activating or hunting, the goal is always simple. Have fun, stay safe, keep exploring. Until next time, keep those radios on, your PTT down, and POTA on.
POTA on, guys.